Hi everyone. Oh my God, the volume is so loud. I'm gonna try to adjust it. At least I can hear it in my headphones. Anyway, yeah. So an update for this weekend. I'm hoping to do a few more videos more often than in the past. Of course, sometimes if you haven't changed very much in your routine, you feel like maybe you have nothing to talk about, but I kind of feel like making these videos helps me with my studying, so I'm going to try to post a bit more. I may not have a whole lot new to say though. So um, last weekend, I had the idea that if because I was studying, I was drilling a lot of HSK vocabulary, and I wanted to do the 1000 HSK4 as what I had kind of in my Anki deck, and I was going through that and reviewing things, and I was picking out pictures to try to make it more interesting, and I was sentence mining, going on Google looking for sentences. I found a site that actually I could download. I get example sentences and native audio for the sentences for a lot of the words, and it was this was really exciting. It's just like just great media. It makes studying more fun, or so I thought, and would help me with my studying. Unfortunately, I mean, I thought that was great, but and the pictures probably helped more than anything in terms of keeping me interested in the SRS studying. But it was uh, it, it wasn't working so well. And I part of for me why I was struggling so much, I thought, was that the individual characters, when I because most vocabulary in Chinese, and of course languages that borrow from Chinese, well, any language, there's not just one syllable, it's multiple syllables. They're basically in Chinese two Hanzi or two Kanji, two Chinese characters. And when you get a word that has two Chinese characters, that's a bit more challenging to remember than a word that has one or one new Chinese character for you. So two new Chinese characters, excuse me. And so I was thinking, to kind of avoid that, go around that problem, I was thinking, oh, I'll just drill it, maybe make a deck, drill those kanji or Hanzi individually. And I got this app, which is I think is a good app. It's very interesting. Sticky Study, where it has preloads these study decks. They have a great app for Japanese and also for Chinese. Japanese and Chinese are very related languages, so a lot of these app authors end up making good apps for both languages. And the app includes some native audio, and there's no pictures, there's no example sentences, but it's very clean, nicely designed, and it's a very nice SRS system, and it's kind of fun to do. I like it. I've used it in the past before. I didn't stick with it for years on end, but I would use it for maybe like a month or two at a time, and I liked it. I wanted to give that a try, so I loaded, and I didn't have to work too hard or make adjustments. I would just load this app up and go. So that's what I did last week. And I got these, the HSK4 Hanzi, and I sat down, started studying, drilling. And, I've got all this experience with Japanese kanji. I figured, this is possible, it could work. I'm kind of skeptical, thinking, no, it may not work. This is, in the past, just straight up rote memorizing sounds to go with the Chinese characters. It works, but it's really frustrating. And but I'm thinking maybe it'll be different. You always think maybe it'll be different. Maybe it's a little better this time. I haven't only did it for a few days. So I sat down, I drilled it, and I crammed like 450 Hansa. That's a lot in a few days. That's a ton. Of course, I was a bit motivated. And so part of that is, I think, because I've had so much experience in the past 9 years, just doing so much rote memorization, doing Anki and drilling all these characters. So I did that, and then I got through it. And as I around the 400th kanji Hansa, and these are kind of random, so I'm not going from easy to beginning, easy to start, and more difficult advancing. It was kind of just randomly introducing the Hansa. So the difficulty didn't go up, but around 400, I think my brain started to say, "Hey, wait a minute," and it did get more difficult. And I was like, "Okay, 400, this is a lot. Let's let because the app was gonna kind of after I had crammed the Hanzi after an interval of 3 days or so. It was going to reintroduce those again, of course, and see if how many I remembered. And when they started to do that, they came up. Those reviews came up, and I started doing them. Yeah, the retention rate wasn't so good. It wasn't so terrible. Actually, was if these any Hansa that I had seen before in my studies or just anywhere before, but mostly in the vocabulary or elsewhere, just in general, they were not entirely new. The retention rate was okay. It was satisfactory. Nothing that I would be demoralized or frustrated or exhausted from doing. But the brand new Hansa that I hadn't seen before, the retention rate, I didn't do the math. It felt like maybe 10 to 20%. It didn't feel so good. I mean, um, I kind of knew this could happen going in, and even if I were bound to determine, like in before with kanji, if I was like, I just felt like with Japanese and I couldn't read it, I kind of felt like, oh God, this barrier of Chinese characters where I can't put a sound to the character I'm reading. I need to fight through this. This is a brick wall that I can't go around. I can't get past. I need to get through this. With the 10 to 20% rate, I could fight through that. I could sit down and do this, and and get through that 1,000 Hansa, probably within the roughly within the time period that I was hoping for. I think I could do it within 1 to 2 months, but it would involve spending a couple hours a night studying this every night, drilling constantly, and I have done so much Anki. It's not out of the question for me. However, I didn't want to do it. I'm like, I do think that even just those few days of drilling this, I actually got some permanent benefit out of it. So it wasn't complete waste. And also I know that this is something that I don't want to do for Hansa. I do think that it did improve a little bit my overall, in terms of my kind of priming my brain, in terms of just getting used to Chinese word sounds, Hansa characters. Even though I didn't retain these words, I failed them when they came up for review. I've at least seen them, and I've made an effort to memorize them. So it's there in my brain somewhere. I can't access it very well, but it exists. Maybe, although who knows? We don't really know how memory works. It could just disappear completely for real, or it could just be hard to find. I don't know. Anyway, I do have some faith that there was some good came out of this besides just knowing that I don't want to do it. However, this week I was watching YouTube videos, of course, as I always do. I watched several videos. Lucas Lamparello did a pretty good video. I generally watch my YouTube videos during my lunch break from work. I work from home, and I'll just try, during my lunch break, I'll get some takeout food from a fast food place because, I need to change that because, as you can see, my face look maybe, I've been sick this week too, by the way, but I think it's that my diet needs to change, needs to get healthier. Anyway, so I watched YouTube videos, and Lucas Lamparello, when he comes out with a new video, usually when that pops up in my YouTube feed, I click on it right away. I enjoy his videos. I just like his style of presenting. I'm pretty damn sure he scripts his videos, and I've been told in my videos that I shouldn't do that, which is probably because I don't present very well when I'm reading a script. Yeah, you can't get better at something you don't practice, because I'm kind of afraid to do that again. But anyway, Lucas did his video in German, and it was about how he learned German. And he said it was his first time learning a language from scratch without getting help from someone else, or at least like from a class or someone else's method per se. And that's where he developed his bidirectional translation method, which I guess he sells that now. He makes great YouTube videos. I don't know how, depending on your perspective, but he also sells language learning advice or whatever. I don't purchase it. I just enjoy the videos, and I really, really enjoyed the videos and his advice. So the video was entirely in German, and he had subtitles in English, but I didn't need them. I'm like, yeah, my German rocks. I don't need the subtitles. That's an ego boost. I loved it. I'm like, I haven't even studied this language in 10 years. Not entirely true. Every now and then I do actually look at it, but more or less that's kind of true. 10 years. Yeah. Anyway, so I enjoyed the video. And of course, when I'm watching, and he's watching Lucas, kind of reminds me of the fact that he doesn't like SRS. He doesn't like apps. He enjoys studying the old school method, the way he learned languages, probably doing doing this method he developed before apps were ever around. So, although even though he's old school and he developed his method before the apps, I gotta say, there's people that, after who are younger, and have come into, who started studying languages or just studying in general since apps notebooks, technology, all this stuff. They still like paper and pencil, or they like paper books. So that's not, even though he's old school, that, a lot of people like that. That's not just him. Anyway, so when I see that, when I see his videos or I see him, I'm always a little bit reminded of that. And of course, when he was talking about German, I reminded the way I learned German, which is, well, the way he learned German, sort of. That is, no apps and on my own. For the most part, I did take some classes, but they were completely ineffectual. And what did work for me was just extensive reading, tons and tons of extensive reading. Traveling to Germany a couple times was wonderful motivation. It got me in love with the language and gave me the drive and willpower to sit down and do that extensive reading, which was horribly difficult at first. But I didn't really learn German so much when I was in Germany per se. It was all extensive reading. That was my German skills are thanks to spending years sitting down, reading, and then also listening to lots of Deutsche Welle, which is a internet, or actually it was a shortwave. I didn't listen to the shortwave, but radio show that was had news channels and other programs that were intended for Germans living abroad, and also a lot for people studying German. They kind of made material for both, and it was wonderful. Yeah, so it gets me back to thinking about that, and I'm thinking, you know what, that was better than using Anki. I mean, sure, Anki got me to learn Japanese. Anki, I mean, I guess there's so much pressure to use apps. There's so much popularity with that spaced repetition. And of course, I have this habit of using spaced repetition that it's kind of hard to kill. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm thinking about this, and I just basically, I wanted to change how, and I'm looking at some of my bookshelf full of Japanese books that are not getting read. And I'm thinking, this has to change. I don't, I do think that in fact, I know that SRS works really well. I know that, for example, when when I read books, I was reading Harry Potter in Korean, and using Link. Whenever I encountered words that I had studied using SRS, I knew them. It's great. I knew them, and the words that I didn't know from SRS, where I was just reading Harry Potter, like for broomstick or magic. Magic, I think, has stuck, but the word for broomstick, it repeats so much. You know what? I can't, I probably wouldn't know it if I saw it. I might, I don't know. I know I forgot that word so many times. But if I had stuck it into an SRS app, then it would probably have stuck, because it really forces you to get it. And well, of course, and I have this, when it comes to SRS, I have this wonderful habit of doing it every day. Anki, you can't fall behind or the reviews pile up. And so I have that wonderful habit. Whereas with reading, I binge, and I don't do it every day. I do a lot of it for a few days or a week, and then I just slack for the next week or 2 weeks or something. It's not a wonderful habit. And so consequently, my experience from doing extensive reading with just my first book in Korean, although but from the beginning, I was going so slowly. By the end of the book, I was going much faster. So my reading speed really got better, and the sense of being immersed in the story got better. But my vocabulary that I was getting from the extensive reading didn't seem to get better, that I could tell. I don't really know. And so that was definitely frustrating. When I compare that to spaced repetition, you just kind of think, oh God, spaced repetition is where it's at, or at least you need to kind of balance the two. And let me tell you, when you have Anki prompting you to study every day, or you're going to fall behind, that's what you make the priority. You don't make reading the priority, at least not easily. It takes more discipline to do Anki and then the extensive reading also. For me, at least, a lot of my studying would come down to doing Anki for the day, because I work. On the weekends, a different story for sure. But during 5 days a week, I'm working. I'm tired, and after work, I want to get some exercise in too. Heck, I'm even single with a lot of free time. I mean, if I were married with kids, oh my God. But I have all this free time, but I'm still really busy, still working even with my schedule of being a single guy who lives alone. It's hard. I work, I want to exercise. I got to do some errands, chores or whatever. So getting Anki in, of course, is the priority. Then after you get that in, you need to relax. And you could do it reading, but it takes more discipline to sit down and do it. What I typically am doing, though, is just watching anime. So yeah. So what I'm thinking now, what I did and what I did do is I deleted most of my decks in Anki. I just deleted them. I'm just so I have this habit. I love foreign languages. I study them every day. That energy has gone into Anki. It hasn't gone into extensive reading nearly as much as it could. But I every day I feel an urge to do something with foreign languages. So if I delete those decks, which I did do, and I don't go back to them, I'm gonna have no choice but to open books. That's what I'm thinking. It's got to happen. It's gonna, and then I'll read the books. And of course, I know that the vocabulary is at least to start is not going to go up. It's not going to go up as fast as it would with spaced repetition. And part of it, and of course, if I could balance spaced repetition with extensive reading, then that would be probably the best thing to do. But right now, I can't do that. I'm going to consider how I could possibly do it. Maybe I could set up maybe spaced repetition on the weekend only. Is that a thing? Do Anki once a week? I think you could do it. I could do it with Japanese because I studied my level's so high that I don't for new vocabulary and stuff. I don't forget it nearly as fast. But for Chinese or Korean, I don't know if that would work so well. But maybe if I'm extensively reading every day, maybe it could. I don't know. For now though, I deleted those decks. I don't want it to be a temptation. It's like I have this, my thing, what I have to do foreign languages every day because I just love it too much. I'm going to sit down and read. So the best thing, of course, to do to make yourself read, there's a whole lot of stuff you can read, but the best thing to do is to find something that gets you excited to read, catches your imagination. And for me, when I was doing German, that was reading. Well, it was reading anything, and I liked reading books that I had already read in English. Because I had no idea what was going on otherwise. I had already read English, but hadn't read them in so long that I'm kind of remembering the story as I go. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm lucky. I have a chance to do that with a book in Chinese. You would think that wouldn't be possible unless I chose Harry Potter. And I'm so sick of Harry Potter, unfortunately. I can't get excited about Harry Potter. It's a great story. I love the story. It's a wonderful story. I've read it too much in too many languages, and it was too high. It was too much before now, and so I'm not excited. I own Harry Potter in Korean. I probably will read it, but it's not something to get me excited about. I'll have to find something else, and that's going to be a little more difficult to do. But in Chinese, I have something to read. I'm very excited to read. It's called, at least the English translation is, I think, The King's Avatar. I don't know the name. So excited to read it though. It's a Chinese kind of light novel, kind of an esports light novel. It was made into an anime, and also it's made into a live action drama on Netflix. I've watched part of the series on Netflix. I've actually gotten up to around the point where I read in English. I read when I was in Japan a couple years ago. I read an English translation of this, and I loved it. I was in Japan. I somehow I needed at that time I wanted to binge something in English. I don't know how I found this web novel. I don't know, but I did, and I loved it. It sucked me in. It was addictive, like any anime, like wonderful anime series that it can sometimes be, and I loved it. So I'm reading it now. It's available free online. I copied it into Link, and I'm going through reading it on Link, and it's kind of fun. What you do is, as a beginner, when you're reading a book, and you know, of course, you know the story. I don't know it perfectly though, because it's been a few years, so it's kind of hazy, but I know the gist, and I kind of know the characters, although I don't know their names perfectly because they were Chinese, and my memory is not so great, but. What you end up doing is you're going through reading sentences, and you're picking out the few words that you know, and you're kind of remembering the story as you go. And so that's how you do it. And it's really exciting because it's, at least for me, it's thrilling to read this story in Chinese, doing something to me, and knowing that, anyway, just kind of immersing yourself in this world. And you can really only, at my level, I can only really achieve that with something that I've already read in a different language. Now, if I had actually picked this up and I was doing it like like a dual language thing where I had like one page in English, one page in Chinese, to me, I mean, that could kind of work, but at the same time, it doesn't give you the immersion effect. It's like right now I'm reading it just in Chinese. I don't have an English translation. That kind of ruins it for me, ruins the magic, the immersive effect. And you kind of end up focusing on the English, not the Chinese. I am focusing on the Chinese right now. It's all I have in front of me. If I, and it's kind of, I kind of like the fact that although I know the story, but it's been a few years now, so I don't know it that well, and I'm remembering it. So it's a bit of a challenge. I like that a lot. That makes this a really good way for me to study at the moment. I do also have a whole bunch of graded readers in Chinese, which I purchased online. So they're ebooks, and I can load those into Link, or and I can read those. Those are great. Now, I like graded readers because they're appropriate level. You get a very, very strong benefit from reading text of appropriate level. If I want to achieve speaking skills or just really will achieve improve my language in Chinese as quickly as possible, I know it would be reading appropriate level material, but at the same time, it's not as exciting. The other book I have is native material. That makes it more exciting, and that kind of really sucks me in. Ultimately, that's more important than something the proper level, but you can kind of mix it up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll read some. I'm going to read some of the graded reader one night maybe, and read the actual native content another night. So I'm going to do both. And I'm not going to do Anki. No Anki for the time being, except I do have an Anki deck for my Chinese class because I take this class once a week, and if we study something a few weeks ago, I'm going to forget it, and Anki will keep me remembering it. That's okay. That deck will not get too big because I'm only putting the material from that class in. I'm not like trying to learn a language with it. I'm just trying to learn this class, and we're going at a very moderate pace, introducing material slowly and steadily. So that will not suck up my language learning time. I'm positive that will not interfere with studying the language. I do have also a grammar deck, the Chinese grammar wiki. It has a bunch of sentences, about 5,000. That's way too many, isn't it? I don't know. I'm thinking I might go through that. I have it set up so it's actually pretty easy. It's not too challenging. So hopefully, because it's easier, make it easier. So side one has audio. Side one has pinyin. Side one has Honza. Side one doesn't have English. That's all it doesn't have on side one. I have all this information on side one to help make me understand this card and get it right and understand it quickly as fast as possible. So that because it's a grammar deck and so that I think that could probably be okay, but we'll see. I don't want it to, again, my goal here is to immerse, to make reading my thing to do every day, not to do Anki. And so if I end up just spending time doing this deck and not reading, then I'll have to cut this. I'll just delete it. This one of my other YouTubers I like, Seabolt, he had this thing where he was doing too many apps, just not immersing and not effective. Although learning languages and a variety of languages and having fun with it, he wasn't making real progress in language, and he wanted to his way to he wanted to do it differently. He wanted to, at least for one language, Japanese, he wanted to make the real progress, and so he got into MIA. And was just totally following the MIA method and just doing immersion and with Anki. And his method, he really followed. He's not like me, where maybe he kind of fell onto Anki a little more heavily than, at least I assume, heavily than he should have. I don't know for sure how it worked out for him, but it seemed like he was doing a lot of immersion. For me, it's kind of hard. I'm not the best multitasker, so I'll get into one thing and then switching tasks to something else is a little hard. So depending though on the situation. So, but for this, I get into Anki and then switching to immersion is a little hard. So, this weekend my big goal, and it's basically get back to my roots and get past Anki. Anki was a wonderful tool for me for Japanese because the writing system and everything made it so difficult that my the extensive reading didn't work for me. Although maybe I should have just fought through that anyway. find ways. I did all this Anki. I know it helped, but in the end, it took so long for me to learn Japanese and feel fluent. In the end, it was the immersion. it was the immersion, I think, that actually got it to sink in, to get me speaking, to get me understanding, to get words to click. Um, Reading kanji, I think, was definitely as a result of all the SRS I did, but the rest of it, the speaking, listening, everything else, although Anki definitely gave me some vocabulary, God, it didn't come to life until I immersed in that. And I actually forced myself to immerse. And of course, that was easier to do thanks to years of doing Anki and to learning grammar in the classroom. Yeah, it was easier, but it was immersion. If I had just fought through it, just somehow, and it would have been, it felt impossible. I tried and gave up several times. Yeah, that's basically it. My half an hour ramble. If I scripted this video would be 1/3 the length, and you would have been done like a long time ago. If you're still watching, you would have been done. You would have been moved on to something else in your life instead. Yeah. That's it for this weekend. I am going to read. I swear to God, I'm going to read and read and read and read. And this is not a pipe dream. This is going to happen because I deleted my decks. Yeah. I will update. I will update probably next weekend. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.